Having the Power Platform today, there's so much out there to kind of know what's available, know what you can use, which pieces plug into parts of solutions that can help you get what the customer wants.
You've played almost every role, from delivery to operations. How has this shaped your approach to problem solving and decision making, developing solutions?
Coming from the delivery side into running a delivery organization is a very good foundation. It was super valuable to go through support person to consultant to architect to developer to integration person to manager up to where I am today of director.
For someone who wants to make a big impact in the Power Platform, what is the single most important piece of advice that you would give to that person?
The best thing that I've always told people is understand what all the different functionalities are out there. What are the big kind of rocks that are out there? Because at some point your customer is going to ask you to build some kind of mousetrap. Your brain's going to start churning through all those different things you've learned.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel and Power Talks series. I just want to make a really quick announcement that these Power Talks conversations are now cross-platform, so you can find them on any of your favorite podcasting platforms with the link down in the description down below. However you want to listen to it, you now can. So sweet. Now I want to get right into the conversation, and today I'm joined by super special guest, Andy Popkin. Now, Andy, I wanted to first ask you this question. A lot of what we talk about on the show is related to the Power Platform and how people can grow their careers in it. I wanted to ask you, like, for someone who wants to make a big impact in the Power Platform, what is the single most important piece of advice that you would give to that person?
It's a great question. And actually now I'm thinking about it, that just having the Power Platform from where I started, it was, we had one configuration file. You had to do all your own development work, all that kind of stuff. Having the Power Platform today, there's so much out there to kind of know what's available, know what you can use, which pieces plug into parts of solutions that can help you get what the customer wants, right? But at the end of the day, the best thing that I've always told people is just understand what all the different functionalities are out there. What are the big kind of rocks that are out there from a solution perspective in D365 or the Power Platform? What are the little bits within inside of Power Automate, for example, or RPA, or different little pieces of functionality, and know as much as possible. Take the certifications, play around, spin up demos, all that kind of stuff, because at some point your customer is going to ask you to build some kind of mousetrap, and you're just going to, your brain's going to start churning through all those different things you've learned of this could work with that and that could work with that. And it's a mousetrap at the end of the day, right? But you can still kind of lean on all that experience of knowing what is possible, what's not possible. And I think that's what customers really want to know, is truly like, is this possible within this Power Platform, or is it not? So taking the time to know everything out there is probably the biggest thing you can do as a consultant today.
So I have a follow-up question. How do you balance knowing everything out there, as use the words you just said? Like, I don't think it's possible for everybody to know everything and every little nuance about all the different parts. Like, how do you balance that, like really understanding these big rocks, but also knowing enough of the details to develop like good solutions that actually work?
It's a great question. A lot of it is hopefully getting onto projects where you're getting to experience field service or customer service or build Power Automates or whatever it is. But the release notes, I feel like, is a really great place to go. Every wave release, you get those every 6 months, right? Just kind of clicking through those and going through the sections that interest you and seeing what are the new things that are available. What did they actually not release this time, and they're going to release it next time. Staying ahead of those release notes too, as soon as they kind of let them out, to know what's coming in preview, so your customers can see that stuff and maybe play around with it as well. But I think those release notes were a good place for me to go, because you didn't have to dive super deep into everything, right? You've got maybe 2 paragraphs on some new feature that's coming out, and at least you can know they're working on that feature. So as I'm talking to a customer and they want to do whatever that is, I know that it's coming. I can kind of set them up that maybe 2-6 months from now, whatever it is that's going to come out, we can start to play with it when it does hit private preview. But that was the place I went to the most. And then obviously starting to spin up trials, build dev environments and write code and all that kind of stuff is where you actually put your hands on the keyboard and figure that stuff out. But reading the instructions, reading the manuals, all that kind of stuff that guys hate to do, right? I think that was really a big key for me to kind of just understand. And I still do that today with my iPhone, with my Mac, with my daughter's baby monitor, like whatever it possibly is. I go through the instructions just to kind of understand like this button's going to lead me to that and all the different things that are possible. My wife hates it because then I tell her this is how you do what you're trying to do, because she hates me trying to tell her what to do. But yeah, it helps me just kind of know what's possible again. So
Yeah. So you've played almost every role in the space, from
yep.
delivery to operations. And how has this shaped your approach to, I guess more of a delivery side, but like shaped your approach to problem solving and decision making, developing solutions? I mean, this is a loaded question, but
Yeah.
how has all of these different roles and things that have gone into who Andy is and the skills that you have to help you do what you do?
It's been a natural progression. I feel like coming from the delivery side into running a delivery organization is a very, very good foundation, because you know what your consultants are going through, you know their pain points, you know what customers are going through, and you know their pain points and how to estimate work and how to contract the work and all that kind of stuff, right? So you really get a good experience all the way through the process of what it takes to deliver the project. So when it comes to actually being ahead of that delivery team and running the practice, making sure the work's coming in, that people are getting onto the project and the revenue's coming back in as well. It was super valuable to go through, from support person to consultant to architect to developer to integration person to manager, team lead, whatever you want to call it, up to where I am today of director. All those steps were super key. I think if I had tried to start my own business like I wanted to over a decade ago, I definitely would have fallen on my face, just not understanding all these different pieces of the puzzle, that even if you're a small business, you've got to wear all those different hats by yourself to make everything run smoothly. So taking the time with my career to kind of progress at a quick pace, but at a pace I felt that was comfortable for myself through each of those roles and getting to where I got. It wasn't necessarily the dream path for myself to go into operations. I think I've always wanted to start my own company and run my own company, or help somebody run a company. So that's kind of what enticed me to it. And thank you to my boss at the time for kind of giving me that path. It's definitely helped me go where I'm going today. And yeah, I would definitely not trade going through all those different pieces of the delivery side to then switch over to operations.
Yeah. So you've sparked another question for me. So I often struggle with I don't know if you call it patience, but wanting the next milestone, super quick,
Yeah.
wanting to fast forward things. And maybe because people listen to me on a YouTube channel, they think I'm smarter than I am. But I would like to think that if I was a sole solution architect on a project, that project probably wouldn't go that well, because there's still a ton that I recognize that I need to learn, even though I feel oh no, I want to step up to the challenge and I want to grow and I want to do this. So how do you, and I don't know, maybe there's not an answer here, but how do you balance that of wanting to grow your career, in a really driven, successful, quick way, while also making sure that you're not, I don't know, overstepping, you're not going too quick to where you're going to get into a position that you just simply aren't capable for.
Yeah, it's let me see if I can articulate what's going through my head. I think there's two different paths. You've got the title corporate ladder kind of growth path, right? Of getting up to the next level and getting from consultant to architect to senior architect or whatever that may be. And then you've got the actual experience of getting from 0 hours to 10,000 hours, like people say, to become an expert for something, right? So I've personally never been a huge title person. Even when I joined my last job, I think I came in being at a technical architect level, and they said, well, you're really a senior consultant here. And I was like, that's fine. I'll take it and I'll prove you otherwise pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, it was really just a title, and I'm still going to go do the stuff that I know how to do, that I can step up and do on a project, all that good stuff, right? On projects, there are hierarchies and things like that, but I always tell people at the end of the day, everybody on this team is a consultant. at the heart of it, whether they're the engagement lead, the architect, the developer, the consultant, the QA person, etc. You're all still a consultant, and we're just kind of playing different roles in the project. We can all step up at different times. We can all kind of take opportunities to fail or succeed and all that kind of stuff. And it's a great time for, if you're working on a project with a senior person, whether they are senior from experience or age or both, they are some of the best people to work with and learn from, because they've been there, they've done that, they've maybe been in different industries that they can kind of see what works and what doesn't work. Really, really great people to work with, those that have a lot of experience. But I think in the day, it's really, for myself, I just never got focused on titles. It was more so like, let me learn how to build the solution, how to develop plugins, how to write XRM Toolbox tools, how to do data integrations, how to build JavaScript. Like, I didn't really care necessarily about the senior architect path. It was just like, keep giving me these bits of functionality that I can go do on a project. And to your point, I think at one point I probably could be the one person on the project to do everything, but again, it was still pretty tough because you have other roles you kind of need to help you out. But yeah, it was tough to, I think, switching to this last job, kind of take that, I don't even know what, like, ego check a little bit of being at the architect level, and they're like, no, you're a consultant. It's like, well, you're right, I am a consultant. So I'm just going to keep doing my job, and you guys will give me the title at some point. So it worked out.
Sure. No, I think that's super insightful, and hopefully that encourages, someone listening, like it has encouraged me. You teed this up beautifully. I wanted to get into some of your experience, and specifically, I think, I think this is pretty sweet. So you have built one of the tools in XRM Toolbox. Like, I just kind of wanted to give you the floor here. Like, tell the story. What's this tool? Like, what made you want to do that? How did you do it? Because it also sounds like you're a little bit entrepreneurial, and this idea of maybe wanting to start a business one day. Like, I don't know. I tend to have a lot of different ideas and things. And I don't know if they are, XRM Toolbox tools, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in, like, what that was like for you.
Yeah, it's I think we were talking before. I've always been, as a kid, as an adult, someone that's trying to find ways to make things easier. Like, I never want to just live in sanity, right? Nobody wants to. So throughout my progression in this job, I got to the point where I was doing a ton of data integrations, data migrations, needing to run workflows, anywhere from 1 to 1 million against records. And as you know, back in the day, CRM 4.0, if you want to run workflows, you pull up a view, you select 250 records, you run the workflow, you wait 10 seconds or whatever, and you do it again, and you do it again. And like, I couldn't tell you how many times I did that, how many hours I billed the customers that I feel guilty about. I'm like, I'm literally just billing them to click a button. So at some point, Gus Gonzalez, MVP at the time, was sitting on the cube next to me. And I was like, Gus, like, why don't we automate this? Like, I feel like it's just getting a view and then running this API to run a workflow, and boom, there we go. And he, again, like, understanding what's possible with the platform, that's really where that came from. So he and I went to lunch, thought about it, came back, and I think over the course of a couple of days, I kind of wrote some plugins that you could take a view, save a record, and that would, inside of CRM, kick off a bunch of stuff, a bunch of plugins that would then spin up the workflow records and all that stuff. And with CRM, you've got, I think at the time it was a 2-minute runtime limit, and we weren't really too worried about that. We were just trying to see if we could make this kind of thing work. So we were successful with that plugin. This was right when CRM 2011, 2013, somewhere in there, when it just hit the cloud, came out. We actually, I don't know if we crashed the cloud or we just definitely gave it a good impact. Gus saw some chats from his MVP channel that was like, what's going on? Why are all these workflows coming up? The servers are peaking, all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of funny to see that, but we obviously ran into a hurdle of getting past that 2-minute blocker. So XRM Toolbox was pretty new at the time. A lot of people used it. I think the Fetch XML tool was just out. There was some other image tools and other stuff like that, right? So I I was just learning how to develop C Sharp. I don't think I had really ever built too many Windows applications, maybe one or two. And again, like if this is my favorite story, if I can do this, anybody can do this stuff. I had no idea what I was doing when I started development, no idea when I started any of this stuff. It was more so just kind of figuring out what's possible, learning from other people, copy pasting code, all the good stuff developers do these days, right? If I had Copilot now, it would be way, way easier. Anyway, long story short, was able to get that tool in XRM Toolbox. It's 2025. I think that was 2017 or 2016. And the tool, I think, is up still in the top 10 or top 15, well over 100,000 downloads. I told my dad about this when I first was making the tool, and he was like, you should sell this thing for all this kind of money. And I was like, I could, but then I have to support it. I don't really want to do that. That doesn't sound fun to me. And then 100,000 downloads later, I told my dad, he's like, you're stupid for not selling that thing. But I think just getting it into the community, getting it into other people's hands. I still get emails today of people asking, can it do this? Can it do that? Thank you for helping with it. It sparked off, I think, 3 other tools, at least 2 other tools I published. The record counter, the bulk delete tool. Was there one other one? There might have been. And there was like 4 or 5 other ones I never actually finished. And they were all just on projects. I had to do something over and over and over again. And I was like, well, let's just write some code, because it's really, I think that tool honestly was like the core of it, maybe 100 lines of code. Like, it's really not that much stuff. So understanding what's possible, getting the code, plugging enough stuff into it, having it break enough times, and then finally it works. And you're like, okay, something worked. Don't touch it. Keep that there. And again, if I can do this stuff, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of trusting that you know what you're doing, which I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. People look at you as the genius, again, because of the platform and the path you're taking. Joel Lindstrom. One of the quotes he always loved saying was, always try to be just 15 minutes ahead of people in the room, whether it's, Googling stuff at lunch to come back from the meeting and being ahead of them. Like, they're always going to look at you as that smart guy, even though you literally just looked it up 15 minutes ago.
Sure. What's been like one of the most rewarding pieces of creating that and missing out on being retired by now for 100,000 downloads?
Yeah.
What's been the most
$1
rewarding?
would have been nice. Again, the bulk delete tool, that tool, all the various ones, I still get emails today. Every time I get one of those emails, it just takes me back to those times of staying up till 2 a.m. writing those tools. And again, it wasn't for me to get this big boost in the community and get this title and all that kind of stuff. It was for really a tool for myself. And then I wanted to put it out there and see if other people wanted it. And as people started to get it, I joined Hitachi Solutions, and everyone there is like, oh, you're the guy that made that tool. And like, everyone's using it. And all these people join throughout the years, and they all know it. So it's really cool to get that kind of celebrity status, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you're famous. You're a big guy over here. Mr.
Other
Hollywood.
than that, it was just a matter of doing something I enjoyed doing, and building those apps. It was a lot of fun. Doing UX, I think, was something that I do miss out on today. The whole Power Apps, Power Pages, like the Canvas app space. I always thought about trying to build some tools into that. I think that there was probably some other people that did the same thing, but having that platform is pretty cool stuff, I would say, for people these days.
Hey, if you are finding this video impactful or insightful, be sure to like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you are wanting to learn more about the Microsoft Power Platform, then you are going to want to check out the completely free self-paced course that has all of the hand-picked content directly from me as the first link down in the description down below. This is going to teach you everything you need to know about the Power Platform to get started and pass your first few Microsoft certifications. I can honestly say that as a Power Platform consultant myself, that I love what I do, and I don't think many people in today's day and age can say that. If you are wanting to learn more, as I mentioned, be sure to check out the first link in the description down below to get in direct contact and connect with me. All right, let's get back to the conversation. You've mentioned this as well, like you're pretty passionate about like efficiency and like finding ways to make work easier for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody recognizes that as being something beneficial, like working more efficiently and getting the same amount of stuff done in less time. Like, what are, I don't know if you'd call them strategies or, like why is this so important to you? And like, how do you kind of like practically apply this to your work life?
Yeah, I'll bring me back if this ends up being a rant because it's going to piggyback off the
That's
last
okay.
question. Um, so at 0 to 10, which was where I was working at when the bulk workflow tool kind of got incepted, we were a fixed fee shop. We did all fixed fee work. We were bonus based on that. The consultant got a cut of the profit from the project. So we were incentivized to work as quick as possible, still leave the customer happy, give them the solution they want to, but try to, if it was 100 hours worth of work, we tried to do it in 90, 80, 70, whatever we could do. So again, as I'm sitting there billing the customer an hour, another hour, because I'm just clicking stuff, I'm like, man, I could spend 10 hours building this tool. And then for the next year, 2 years, however long, I'm going to use it and I can just run a bunch of workflows and go do my other work. And that's going to enable me at the end of the day to make more money, which is what we're all here to do, right? The company also, I think, is going to make some more money too. And that's what they're here to do. So having myself in that mindset of being in fixed fee world, I think was really crucial for myself for those 2 or 3 years. Even going into that, I was always focused on being efficient, but being in that mindset of like, I really want to get this done as quick as possible, but with delivery excellence still being a key, we still want to make sure the client's happy. So if it takes us 100 hours to do it, it takes us 100 hours to do it. But we were also trying to figure out how to get the next phase of the project sold so we could do it faster as well. So we're building things in phase 1 to make phase 2 more efficient as well. All the efficiency stuff really just came from trying to get project work done as fast as possible, take on probably way too much from a billable hours perspective. But as you know, as a consultant, those hours equal bonus. So we're all happy about that. But yeah, I would say even, as a kid, sports, there's not a lot of efficiencies there other than trying to, run to first base as quick as possible without getting out of breath. Switch to golf. I think that there's definitely some efficiencies there of trying not to hit your ball left and right every single time, and I don't want to be zigzagging across the fairway. So some efficiencies there. But no, at work it was mostly, why are we spending every single day, every single week chasing timesheets in the way we're chasing it, or whatever we're doing, right? It's just wasting time, which the only reason why we're here to work is to make money with our time instead of just burn our wheels with that time, right? So
Yeah.
it's really at the heart of most of what I do. I think in the operations space, you probably could just name it the director of efficiency. I laugh at what's going on with the government right now because I almost took that departmental name for myself in my new job just as a joke. But yeah, it's really just all about efficiency.
Sure. So, okay. Most of the people on this show generally are involved in delivery, but
Yep.
your kind of current experience and role are on the operation side of like running a delivery practice. And I guess the first question I could ask you is what are some things that you love about being on the operation side? One of them obviously being that you really enjoy the pursuit of efficiency. But like, what is it about operations that you particularly really enjoy outside, compared to delivery?
I think even like with your story, I think that's the big part of it, right? Like you specifically. No, I'm kidding. Watching people grow, getting to be on the architect side of things, switching to the managerial side, and helping people get to that next stage of their career, to come from playing sports or from being a finance major like other people I've taught, or whatever background you come from, right? Having them come in, start their career, find this little piece of the platform that they like and they love, and watch them kind of progress over the 1, 3, 5 years. And then at the level I'm at now, I've got anywhere from 60 to 100 people that I'm kind of watching, mentoring, getting on projects, various pieces of their career journey is part of my life. So it's really enjoyable to kind of sit back and watch these people and to give them situations. If a project comes in where I see, it'd be great if Griffin could do this project because it's going to help him get to the next step. That stuff is, I love being able to do that. Doing that as a team lead was great. I only had 8 people to do that with. So now I have, again, 60 to 100 plus people to do that with. So it's a lot of fun. And again, it is fun to run the business side of things, to stay ahead of everybody, at least a month or two ahead from a pipeline perspective, work coming in the door perspective, make sure everyone's got the work to stay here at the company, etc. So it's a different problem to solve for sure from the problems I was solving as an architect, but it's a fun problem. I do miss the architect problems, the how am I going to solutionize around this kind of thing, which I still get to do a little bit of, but it's more of just these business problems that our customers are facing as well, that we're coming in to solutionize for. It's facing those business problems kind of head on and figuring out how to solve them to keep all the employees happy. But it's something that it may run its course one day where I say I want to go back to being in delivery, just because those projects are fun. You get a new customer, a new industry, and you kind of learn that industry, you learn that customer, you get to make new friends, and you've got people on your project, and a lot of that stuff I do miss. But getting to, again, help grow the organization, to have part of the strategy, to help be a leader, to just mentor people, to be there, to do whatever it takes to help make this thing successful, has been a lot of fun. And like I said, maybe one day I'll go back to it, but for now we're gonna keep it going.
Because I'm thinking from a perspective of somebody who say they've been in delivery and they like the idea of jumping into operations.
Yeah.
Like what? So that's, I guess, kind of where I'm like my viewpoint for my next several questions. But like, what are some of the bigger inefficiencies that you feel like organizations kind of struggle with? Like where? Yeah, I guess that's my question. Like, what are
Yeah.
these kind of trends of inefficiencies that you see a lot of organizations struggling with, and how often are they resolved? Like, what's the process there?
Um, I think that a lot of companies, kind of at the end of COVID, post COVID, when everyone was booming, 21, 22, they just grew as fast as possible, right? They didn't really care about the operational processes. As long as people were being recruited, coming in the door, they got their laptop, they were billing, cool, we're good. Like, there was still things we were doing on top of that to do onboarding and to train them and all that kind of good stuff to make sure they're a good employee. But it felt like there was just a total focus on, which was a good thing, bringing revenue in the door as quick as possible, just because it's kind of a gold rush moment, right? Looking back, many people will tell you, I think you're now seeing a lot of companies look at their growth and how they grew, and look at their organization structure and say, we need to do some restructurings and things like that. And it really is true, because they grew, they had all these people have to manage people, and people have to take on various roles and all this kind of stuff. But at some point you just have all these people that you don't really know what they're doing. You don't know what processes they're following. You don't know really anything, right? So the biggest problem I think companies are facing now is figuring out, how do we continue in this world that continues to get more and more expensive, whether it's inflation or tariffs or just salaries going up, people need more money to live, all that kind of stuff. So it's getting harder to keep this business running at the pace we're running at. We have to grow more to provide more money back to the business. How do we run this business with the people we have, or be more efficient with the people that we have, the processes that we have, etc. And finding that a lot of the processes were just kind of abandoned, right? Like, people just were saying, okay, it seems to be working. I'm not really gonna look into the covers too much, because I don't want to break what's working, right? But at the end of the day, it was a lot of people that were, we might have had 10 people doing the process that one person really could do. So you're paying all these extra people to do this work. You might have had processes that were just, based on email instead of based on Power Automate approval processes or things like that could be immediate kind of turnarounds. All these different things that really people weren't using the systems, they weren't using the tools, they weren't using the processes that they've got at their fingertips. In some cases, they're free tools that they could spin up. In some cases, people like yourself can come in and build those kind of things for them. I think that we're going to see companies focus a lot more on that kind of internal investment to make sure that they've got the processes, the structure, the systems, et cetera. Especially with AI agents, we can kind of go down that whole path, right? Those are going to help with a lot of the inefficient things at a company today, whether it's timesheet chasing or contract approvals or anything that really could get tied up by people getting in the way. I think that there's a good chance that AI is probably going to get involved in the mix to kind of help remove people from slowing that stuff down. I think, again, anything in a company where you're emailing something out and waiting for it to come back, that could come back 2-3 days later. You're moved on from the topic, they're moved on from the topic, you're buried in other work, and hopefully you get back to that by the end of the week. And before you know it, like, that thing is never getting done. So focusing on those kind of processes, even if they're tiny little things, chipping those away and getting them rock solid so you can go focus on the bigger stuff at your company, that's, I think, one of the biggest things to focus on these days.
What are some of the like big ideas of improvement that you see AI really having for the operations side of Power Platform and Microsoft Dynamics delivery organizations?
That's a good question, right? I think that AI is not going to solve everything. We know that. There's still a human touch of knowing who's the right fit for a certain project and things like that. However, I'm definitely seeing AI as a pretty good therapist based on what Reddit is saying out there. So it may have a pretty good understanding of who's going to be the best fit for temperaments and stuff like that on a project. But I think it's really having that agent that's there sitting next to you, so to say, that can help you with whatever processes you need, whether it's, hey, a new project just got entered, we need 3 people, I'm going to go try to find the 3 people that are available and recommend them to you, and here's 3 other people just in case they're not available. Helping you, that would have saved me 30 minutes to an hour to figure all that kind of stuff out, to go to first know the project came in, second, go see who's available, check all the work plans, cross-reference everything, reach out to people maybe, all this kind of stuff, right? So if that can come to me immediately without me even having to think about it, I can either make a decision or say, none of those people are good, go back and try again. And I had a person doing that with me. I think it's super valuable having that person sitting there next to you, but looking at AI and the way it's going, I think there's not necessarily a need for a person doing 100% of that stuff. And I hate saying that because it's people's jobs. But on the flip side, that opens up that person to go do the bigger stuff that's definitely more important than just figuring out, okay, I see that this project starts in 6 weeks. Griffin's available in 6 weeks. I can add 2 + 2 together. That's a pretty easy thing for a computer to do. So let's let the computer do it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, and that starts to get into the conversation of, like AI replacing people, which I think we could spend 3 hours talking about. But I do agree with what you're saying in that, like at the end of the day, and maybe this is insensitive, but it could displace some certain people. And I say this from a perspective of, like, I don't know, people talk about that AI is going to replace, computer programming. I'm literally a software consultant. So coming from a perspective that there's this idea that I could be easily replaced, like, I would like to think that would then allow me to do something that is more valuable to society. Obviously there's people who, right, I depend on this to support me and my family and, everything, and hundreds of thousands of other people that do so as well. So, but nonetheless, it's like, I don't know, it's the same idea with, like, the Industrial Revolution, however many years ago, right? Of, like, we don't need people hammering widgets, and now those people can go and, do something that's more valuable than just hammering a widget, right? So I think it's the same kind of principle. So I align with you on that thought process for sure. I guess a couple just, like, last questions that I'd love to ask you before we start to wrap up the episode is, like looking at the industry over the last decade, like what do you think has changed the most, and like where do you see things really heading? And maybe this fits well into the conversation of AI, but like,
Yep.
leaning on that experience that you have, what are some of the things that have changed the most, and the direction that you see it going?
I think just like the title of your show's got it right, like Power Platform. Um, Coming from the 4.0 days where you had JavaScript, you had workflows, and that was about it. And you had to know how to do it all in that perspective, all the way fast forward to Power Automate, where you can drag and drop your own plugins basically without writing any code. You've got a copilot that can now today write the Power Automates for you, and you just say, hey, I need a Power Automate that does whatever you want it to do. And it will do 80% of the work for you, maybe even 100% of it. So I think just going from really having this like not caveman tool set, but like really pretty basic tool set from a consultant's perspective. Like I think if you had come in a decade ago, you probably would have the same experience as myself, where you would have learned what you learned. But like having everything now that consultants have at their fingertips, that's not necessarily I have to go learn C# or the entire JavaScript language or all of JSON to understand what JSON is. Having all these different things, these different tools at your fingertips to then build cool solutions that are way cooler than what we could have built with a lot more money back in the day. I think that's the biggest change, right? Like to integrate Dynamics with Salesforce, that was a huge endeavor back in the day. Now you just say connector, move accounts over, done. And like in an hour you can literally do it. So it's pretty impressive to see the platform go from where it went to where it is today. And then you throw AI on top and it's a whole new world.
Yeah. Okay. Unrelated question to that topic, but a question I like to ask guests is, like, if you could give your younger self, or the Andy when he was just starting with Microsoft Dynamics and software development and delivery, like if you could give that person one piece of advice, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I think it's just do what makes you happy. There's a lot of different paths in this career. There's a lot of different paths in life in general, I think. And end of the day, find what makes you happy at work. Find what makes you happy if it's outside of work as well. That's cool. But enjoy what you do. And as long as you're doing that, pretty much nothing can go wrong. I think that was really what I was focused on doing even till today. And that's my focus for my next chapter of life, is to just be happy, having fun, do what I'm doing. So stay with that. If you ever vary off that path, definitely make sure you kind of get back to it. And that's my biggest piece of advice.
Sweet. Well, thank you for sharing that. We kind of wrap up every episode with the after hours happy hour segment of the show, where we talk about our hobbies, our interests outside of work a little bit. I know you're a proud girl dad, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're also, you mentioned golf. I have that in your file as well, that you like to golf. What are some of Andy's hobbies, things that he's into, and things there?
Trying to get back into photography, golf. Don't get to play enough golf, mostly because of Lucy. Just because I love spending time with her. Hopefully she'll play golf with me one day. That'd be sweet. But yeah, hanging out with her. I have a cat. I'm a cat dad as well. And as much as he annoys me, it's still a creature that I love. And yeah, getting outdoors, hiking, really anything outside, any sport.
Yeah.
Going to watch the Braves. Go Braves. Yeah, right now it's a special age. I'm watching her on the monitor nap. She's 3, so it's they say on Instagram from 0 to 4, you never get that time back. It's really a special time. I 1,000,000% agree with everybody that says that. Definitely, if and when you have a kid, like do whatever you can to focus on that kid from those ages. Because seeing my 5-year-old niece, she's definitely kind of like, I don't want to play with you, and being a year and a half away from that kind of scares me. So taking it.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I am strictly a plant dad at the moment, so just a couple
Nice.
plants, most
Very
of which
easy.
are still alive. I think
Yeah,
I'm like
and if they pass, then you just get another one. So
75% success rate, I think, at the moment. So we're doing all right.
nice.
But it's
Are you
funny
using
you.
AI to
No,
take care of them and stuff, or
I'm not. I'm not. I just water them. It's funny. I don't have any pets. I grew up with a dog or dogs, but my wife's family, they never really had a pet. But she really wants to get a dog and is like pressuring me all the time.
yep,
And I'm just like, well, the reality is, I work from home, so I would be the one that has to completely take care of this dog
yep,
24/7. We, at the moment, live on the second floor of an apartment, which means I'm walking outside, downstairs, 5 times a day to let this dog out and walk the dog, whatever. So I haven't been sold on it. In due time, that's what I keep telling her,
yep.
in time. But it's funny you mentioned being a dad as well. Like I feel like I'm in a season where I'm enjoying not having the responsibility of kids, but I also am like growing to see the value of like just how rewarding it is, being a parent. So I think that's super cool. I know
It
I've
changes
said this.
everything.
Yeah.
I think even with Lucy was born 2021, and that was the same. I found out I think almost the same time I was switching to operations, and I was becoming a dad. So I was like freaking out. But I think it was a good choice because with a kid, if you do want to spend the time with the kid, it's going to kind of take away from some of those career aspirations. In some cases, people pull it all off. They don't sleep, whatever they do. But it definitely changes your priorities. So if and when you're ready for it, just be ready.
Yeah. How do you be ready? Like is it possible to
There's
be
no
ready?
like
I
there's
don't
no
think
be
there's a
ready.
possible way.
My buddy just had a kid 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago on New Year's Day, and within 48 hours he was just like, this is the wildest thing I've ever experienced. I'm like, I've been trying to tell you this. There's no way for me to actually like, explain the things that are going to happen and the actual lack of sleep and what that's going to do to you and the extra gears that you've got as a dad at 4 a.m. when the baby's peeing all over you and all this kind of stuff, right? It's a crazy experience, but it's one that when you're in it, it's like when a like project go live mode or like into the sprint, you're trying to get everything done. You just do it. The adrenaline kicks in. It's definitely a different level from a project, but I've had those same
Sure.
kind of feelings. But you just do it, and like I definitely question why they don't teach a lot of this stuff in school. I would much rather learn how to take care of a kid than level 4 geometry or whatever it is, right? Like I've probably never used that stuff to this day, and now I have Copilot to answer those questions for me. So, there's books, there's all that kind of stuff, but until that thing's there, like in your arms, that moment is when everything you're just like, oh wow, okay, I have a kid, and like I have to do all this stuff, and like you just start doing it.
That's fun. That's super cool. I love that. I will leave it there. Andy, man, thank you so much for the time.
Thank
That
you.
last hour that we've spent just hanging out, and I always say it's my favorite part is just connecting with people. If people listen to this conversation and were positively impacted and wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
I think I'm on Twitter or X. Sorry, it shows my age. At Andy.Popkin, maybe. If not, go to the XRMToolbox.com website, and my information is definitely on there. You can contact me through that stuff. I think it goes to my personal email. So, yeah, definitely reach out there. LinkedIn as well. Happy to talk.
Yeah. I'll have links to stuff down in the description down below that people can click on. So thanks again, man, for being here. Truly.
Cool.
And
yeah, thank you as well.
thank you to you for sticking to the end of the video. My name is Griffin Lickfelt, the host of the Citizen Developer channel and Power Talks podcast conversation series. Check it out on your favorite platform. And I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.